As you've seen from the last lesson and playing around in Premiere Pro, you're going to be using the timeline a whole lot. This makes navigating the timeline extremely important, and there are a variety of shortcuts to be aware of that will help make things easier for your navigation. You already know about pressing the spacebar to play and pause, but you will often pause a video and end up with your playhead a few frames off where you want to cut or where you want to press in or out. If you want to be more precise, you can use the left and right arrow keys to move the playhead forwards and backwards one frame at a time. This is going to be extremely key when it comes to keyframes later on, when we want to be extremely precise. You can also move 5 frames at a time by holding down Shift and left or Shift and right, allowing for some quicker scraping of your footage. If you don't want to move a few frames at a time and instead want to jump straight to the next edit on the timeline, then press up and down on your keyboard. As you can see here, by pressing up and down, we're jumping straight to the beginning of the next cut. If you want to watch your entire timeline through, then press Enter on the keyboard. You're editing this footage right now. It's pretty cool, man. I hope you're enjoying it.
You can also press Shift and Space to do this.
You're editing this footage right now.
And that will not render the footage to, which is what the Enter bar does.
You may have seen that on the timeline there's this line that changes colors. In some places it's green, others it's yellow, and in particularly tricky places it's red. If it's red, then this means that you're probably experiencing some slowdown when playing back that footage, as Premiere is working extra hard.
To show you an example, I'm going to use a GPU intensive effect from my preset pack. As you can see, by applying this effect, the top bar has gone red over that clip.
To fix this, you can render out your clip on the timeline. To do this, you just have to hit the Enter key, and after a little time, your clip will be rendered out and should be able to play back nicer. You can render a specific clip by hitting Enter when the clip is selected. And if this doesn't work, you can go to Sequence, then Render Selection. If you want to render an entire project, go back up to Sequence and choose Render In to Out. Speaking of in and out, to clear the timeline of any in markers, it's Control, Shift, and I on Windows, or Option and I on Mac. And to clear the out markers, it's Control and Shift and O on Windows, and Option and O on Mac. To clear both in and out at the same time, it's Control, Shift, and X, or Option and X.
If you wanted your in and out markers on just one clip, select the clip and press X on the keyboard. This will put the in and out markers over the selected clip, like so.
There are also shortcuts for speeding up your review process. Take, for example, a 10-minute video that you've just edited. You may want a quick preview of the whole thing, just to make sure everything looks correct. By pressing L on the keyboard, you'll speed up the playthrough. This will not affect the final result, just the playthrough of the video. Every time you press L, the video will get faster and faster. This is a really useful way to quickly review your project.
If you want to return to normal playback speed, press the spacebar to pause, and then press the spacebar again to play at normal speed.
Some more shortcuts you will regularly be using are the plus and minus keys. These allow you to zoom in and out of your timeline. You can also use a slider to do this, but plus and minus keys are the way easier option. Chances are that you will zoom really close to a specific point when you're making a precise cut, rather than pressing minus a bunch of times to zoom out. Instead, hit the backslash key to quickly zoom out and see the entire timeline. There are a few ways to expand the height of your video and audio layers in the timeline so that you can get a closer look at what's going on. This is especially useful for audio so that you can see the peaks and troughs of the audio waveform. The first method, and the one that's used by most beginners, is to simply go to this gray area on the left of the timeline and go between the two layers. Your cursor will change into these handles and you can change the height of that layer. However, I'm not here to teach you how to be a beginner. I know that you're more than that. So the next method is to double click on the gray area that will double the size of the layer. With video, you get a nice little icon showing you the images of the footage. And with audio, you get these left and right audio waveforms, these being the sounds that will come from the left and right headphones. You will also have audio gain controls, which we'll go into later. Double click that gray area again and the layer reverts back to normal. But let's go one step further and use some actual shortcuts to do this for us. Select your footage and press Ctrl and plus on Windows or Command and plus on Mac. As you can see, the height of the video layer has now increased. Press it again to increase it some more until it's where you want it to be. Then to make it small again, just hit Ctrl and minus on Windows or Command and minus on Mac. This does not change the height of the audio track. To change the height of the audio layer, press Alt and plus on Windows or Option and plus on Mac. It works the same as the video shortcuts, allowing us to keep expanding the height more and more times we press. To go back down again, press Alt and minus on Windows or Option and minus on Mac. Now you will have seen your cursor snapping to the edges of each clip. If you don't want that to happen, just hit S on the keyboard and the snap effect will stop. To turn that back on, just press S again. This is super useful for lining up cuts. The last shortcut I'm going to tell you about is the tilde key, which is the weird squiggle on your keyboard, that one that you never know what it does. Depending on your keyboard, the tilde key is either going to be next to the number 1 key, or some MacBooks, it's next to the Z. I've also seen it next to the Enter key on some keyboards, so spend a second just to scout out your tilde key. The tilde key allows you to enlarge the panel that your mouse is hovering over to full screen. For example, hover over the playback window, press tilde, and now your playback window has filled the screen. Press tilde key again to leave. You could do this on any panel, maybe the timeline to have a closer look at some of the edits. This will be particularly useful for people on laptops or smaller screens. Another useful tip for the timeline is color coordination. You will have seen that video files and their audio files are colored blue. And if you have imported just audio, you'll have seen that the audio file is green. In the next section of this course, you will see that adjustment layers are pink. These are the default colors, and I normally don't play around with them, but if you want to change the color of a specific clip on that timeline, just right-click, go to Label, and then choose your preferred color. For example, you may want to highlight a particularly troublesome clip yellow or red. To finish off, let's talk about Workspace. We've already customized your workspace by adding the effect dock to the top left panel. I often have the effect dock on my second screen, and to move it over, we just press those 3 lines next to the dock name and click Undock, and then move the dock over. If you want your timeline to be bigger, then you can hover your mouse on the space between your panels. It will change to some handles, and then you can push and pull to the size you want. You can change the size of any panel this way. As your Premiere journey progresses, you may want to customize your workspace even further. At the moment, what we have is what I use, and I recommend keeping your workspace like this for the minute. But let me show you how to add more panels for future use. Go to the Premiere Pro menu at the top of the screen and click Window, and you will see a list of docks.
Choose the dock you want to add, and that dock will appear somewhere on the screen. Just drag and drop that onto a panel, but instead of dropping it onto the middle blue square, drop it on the edge box on the side where you want the panel to fall. Drop, and you have a new tab right there.
This makes your workspace endlessly customizable, and you will soon find the right panels and docks that you want to use, and you can make them even easier to access. If you find that you accidentally mess everything up, or you lose your timeline or something else, then go to Window, Workspaces, and choose Reset to Saved Layout.
Or go to that Workspaces icon and click Reset to Save Layout.
The key to a good workspace is being clean and efficient. And once you have something that you're happy with and you want to reuse on all of your Premiere Pro projects, it's time to save a workspace. Like we just did, go to Window, Workspaces, and Save as New Workspace. Give your creation a name, press OK, and there you have a saved workspace.
Or go to that Workspaces icon again and click Save as New Workspace.
Those are just some of the tools you need to navigate and customize Premiere Pro with. Again, go back into Premiere Pro and just have a play around in the timeline, playing footage at half speed, zooming in and out of the timeline, and watching your creation on a bigger window using the tilde key. And remember to also take a break. Enjoy some recess, get outside and kick a ball out with some other fins. And when you're back, we're going to start the process of really jazzing up your videos by adding zooms and subtitles. And I'll teach you the basics of tracking. So go on, get out of here, go take a break, it's recess time. And I'll see you back here for the next lesson.